Economists look at firms' costs in the short run and in the long run. Firms can hire more workers and purchase more materials relatively quickly, but it takes a much longer time for the firm to acquire economic capital, buildings, land, and complex machinery. Any length of time that is too short for the firm to be able to alter its economic capital is called the short run. Any length of time longer than this is called the long run. Short-run costs are important because they provide information about the firm given the economic capital the firm has to work with at the moment. Long-run costs are important because they provide information about the firm given that eventually the firm will be able to alter the quantity of economic capital it uses in production. Economists call the costs of short-run factors variable costs and the costs of long-run factors fixed costs. Think of fixed costs as costs that remain even if the firm produces no output. For example, suppose that a firm fires all of its workers, stops buying materials, and shuts off its electric. The costs of these inputs would go away. But at least for a while, the firm would continue to pay for rent on its buildings, land, and machinery because it would be locked into rental contracts. Or, if the firm owned these outright, it would continue to incur depreciation expense on the buildings, land, and machinery until the firm could sell them off. These costs that remain when the firm stops producing are called fixed costs. All other costs are variable costs. The firm's total cost is the sum of its variable and fixed costs. Economists are interested in what happens to the firm's costs as the firm alters the quantity of output it produces. Average total cost is the firm's total cost divided by the number of units of output it produces, or its costs per unit. Recall that when a firm has few workers, because of specialization, each additional worker the firm hires increases the firm's output by more than the previous worker. If each additional worker produces more than the last worker, but costs the same as the last worker, then adding workers will cause the firm's average total cost to decline. The range over which average total cost is falling is called the range of economies of scale. Over this range, as the firm increases its output, its cost per unit falls. But as the firm hires more workers, opportunities for specialization eventually diminish and congestion starts to arise as additional workers start to put a strain on the firm's physical and managerial infrastructure. Eventually, the firm reaches a point where each additional worker the firm hires increases output less than the previous worker did. If each additional worker produces less than the last worker, but costs the same as the last worker, then adding workers will cause the firm's average total cost to increase. The range over which average total cost is rising is called the range of diseconomies of scale. Most people are intuitively familiar with the idea of economies of scale because of our shopping experiences. We see buy one, get one free deals and discounts for purchasing in bulk. Firms that experience economies of scale can reduce their cost per unit and pass on some of that savings to the consumer when they produce more. What people tend not to see are diseconomies of scale. To observe diseconomies of scale, look at the number of firms producing the same product. There are dozens of fast food chains and thousands of independent diners, dozens of hotel chains and thousands of independent motels. If firms only experienced economies of scale, then there would be only one fast food restaurant chain, only one hotel chain, only one car manufacturer, only one department store. Because of diseconomies of scale, firms can only grow so large. Any larger, and their average total costs start to rise, and they start to lose business to competitors with lower average total costs. Now look at the border between range of economies of scale and the range of diseconomies of scale. We call this the efficient output level. This is the output level that achieves the lowest possible average total cost. When the firm produces at this output level, its average cost per unit is as low as possible. Average cost looks backward by telling us how much it cost on average to produce each unit of product the firm has already produced. We have another measure that looks forward by telling us how much the next unit of output will cost. We call this marginal cost. For example, Suppose a firm's average total cost is $10 and its marginal cost is $15. This means that all the units the firm has produced so far have cost the firm an average of $10 each. But the next unit the firm produces will cost the firm an additional $15. Recall that marginal product tells us how much more the firm will produce if it hires another worker or purchases more materials. Marginal cost combines the cost of the workers and materials with the additional output those inputs produce to tell us how much it will cost if the firm produces one more unit of output. Why does any of this matter? When you decide whether to produce more pizza, what matters isn't the average cost of the pizza you've already produced, but the marginal cost of the additional pizza you're about to make. Remember, average cost measures what you have done, marginal cost measures what you are about to do.